Why can't I see the share icon? Yeah. Hi, everyone. It's good to be back for another session of Mellow Musings. So, welcome, everyone. Welcome to this session. And we have some people on the screen. We have some people who have not come onto the screen. So, maybe for a minute, everybody could switch on their videos. Would you like to do that? Yeah, that would be nice. And I can see we have Nivedita Mishra, who is from you are from Trinidad and Tobago, right? Yeah, and Perkus is from Hong Kong. And who are the others from outside India? I guess they'll join. Some of them will join. And Giada, where are you from? Italy?
Yes, although I live in Canada for the time being.
Oh, very nice. Transcontinental. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is a special session. It is an e-book launch of a book that we are all familiar with, that we all had a hand in producing. So we've given birth to this book and now we are celebrating it. But first, before coming to the book, let me talk about Mellow and Mellow Musings. This is the Society for the Study of the Multi-Ethnic Literatures of the World, and the acronym that we use is MELO. We have been around since 1997, and well, we do a lot of things like organize conferences regularly, then big conferences, annual conferences, and also mini conferences. We have Mellow Musings. This is part of Mellow Musings. And in Mellow Musings, we get together and we discuss books, we discuss authors. Sometimes we have a tete-a-tete, we have a conversation with authors. We have some lectures, we have panel discussions. The aim of Mellow and Mellow Musings is mentoring or grooming the upcoming generation. I hope I don't sound as if I'm talking down, but we enjoy what we are doing and we encourage everyone to be engaged in academic activities. And at the same time, what we do is we have a sort of a camaraderie. A camaraderie, we form a network of like minded people, of scholars who are working in fields, in common fields, and our network extends beyond national borders. We've been part of international conferences, and a lot of international scholars have been coming to our conferences too. They have contributed to some of our publications. We bring out a journal. Manpreet is here. Manpreet Kang is here. Manpreet, hi. Yeah. So she takes care of the journal, major journal. We call it major. So we bring out this journal. We've been bringing it out for a long time. And then now we have this publication thing also that we are focused on. So we are together and we love what we do. Now, our association with Springer is fairly recent. And we have Satwinder Kaur here from Springer. Hi, Satwinder. So nice of you to join us. So Satwinder, don't be deceived by her very young, and she is innocent. Yes, don't be fooled by the innocence, but by the appearance. But because she is a hard taskmaster and she has rigorous standards that we all have to adhere to. Thank you, Satwinder, for being here. Is Arunima also here?
I think Arunima will join in a while.
Oh, very nice. Okay. So what we did was our association with Springer goes back to a few years ago when we brought out the the Encyclopedia of Indian Writing from the Diaspora. We brought that out, and after that, well, we enjoyed doing that so much. And mind you, we had about 120 contributors then. We enjoyed doing that so much that we decided that we must do something else. And we got together over a mini mellow, over a small conference 2 years ago in 2024. And the result is this book which we are very proud of. Thank you, Satwinder, and thank you all the contributors who are here. Okay, so today's launch is this particular book, and we are not going to stop here. We have miles to go. We are going to publish more. We are going to bring together more manuscripts, and we'll be getting after Springer from time to time. And hopefully we will meet their standards and we'll bring out more books that you and I and all of us will be proud of. Okay, so with this as the background, let us look at this book and let us talk to all the people who have helped bring this book into the world. I do have a rough order in which we will proceed. And if everyone is present, those people who were supposed to speak, well and good. Otherwise, well, we'll just move on. And towards the end, if we have time, maybe the others could also join in, right? Why don't we begin with Satwinder? Yeah, Satwinder, why don't we begin with you? And if you could talk about your role, the role that you played in bringing out this book.
Yes.
Satwinder.
Yes.
Yeah, Satwinder, please introduce yourself, your position in Springer.
Yes.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you very much for having me here to celebrate the e-launch of the book. I am Satwinder Kaur, an executive editor at Springer Nature. I look after humanities and social sciences at Springer, and of late, I have been given the role to develop the language and linguistics portfolio at Springer. So I and my team acquire books in the area of humanities and social sciences, be it religion or philosophy, cultural studies, literature. Literature is something that I've been working on to develop from India, and that is when I got in touch with with ma'am, and then the conversation kind of began at that point of time, and since then there is no looking back, and we have been discussing a lot of books to be published under Springer or the Palgrave imprint. Now, as ma'am just mentioned that we look forward to a long-term association. So yes, we are also looking forward, if I may say that here as well, since a lot of people are here related to this book and related to the discipline that we are talking about, that we may as well come up with the book series that will help us to gather or solicit as many proposals as we can under ma'am's leadership. So, uh, uh, if I may say that though we are meeting through screens today, the occasion again is, of course, no less meaningful, and I'm happy to be here to speak about the book that bring together many voices around one very important question: that how do we understand our relationship with the natural world? And when we hear the word ecology, many of us think of climate data and forest and the rising temperatures. But when I received the proposal for this book, I literally had to pause and look at ecology differently. So, what do our stories tell us about the world we live in, and what do poems, novels reveal about our relationship with nature? And that's what make this book, Their Spirit in the Woods, more timely and meaningful as well. And from a publisher's point of view, I think this is the kind of book we would like to acquire, we value the most, because it responds to the questions that is not important to the academia, but to humans as well. So how do we understand the ecological crisis, not only through science, but through culture and imagination and emotion as well? So it brings together the way this book brings together literature, film, and the graphic narratives. It that kind of caught my attention, and I thought that this is the book I am going to proceed with, and I would want to take it further, and would like to see it in my program. It is an interdisciplinary book, and that speaks about eco-criticism and ecofeminism, cultural justice as well, cultural studies. So this is an area which I feel is becoming increasingly important in not only in the classrooms, but in the research conversations around the world. And if I may relate and say this, that I also get to I mean, I'm also reminded of its relevance at home, because sometimes my 10-year-old son often asks me questions about climate and the future of the planet. So some of his questions are more direct than any peer review report, but that kind of reminds me that ecological thinking is not abstract anymore, and it's part of everyday life. And I would like to especially acknowledge the book editors. They bring the strong academic experience and their publishing credentials and their scholarly network to this book. And their contribution has kind of helped shape this book that speaks to experts, but it is also not only to the experts, but to the wider audience connect with this. And the contributors, of course, they add another important strength, and they bring diverse voices, global perspectives, and fresh ways of reading the relationship between humans and the natural world. So that diversity matter is something that I always look out for the books that I acquire, that I solicit. And because ecological questions cannot be answered from one discipline, one region, or from one tradition alone. And I am super proud to publish such a book under Springer imprint that connects scholarship with the urgent questions of our time. So that's exactly what this book does. So my congratulations to the book editors and to all the contributors, and I look forward to many more books with you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Satvinder. That was so nice. And I told you all, don't get fooled by the appearance. She has a 10-year-old. Can you believe it? Huh? And as a scholar, she is solid. And I must tell you, what happened was when we were working on the Routledge encyclopedia, that is when Satvinder had got in touch with me, and I told her we are neck deep into this, but maybe a year later, we would be able to consider it. And mind you, for the Routledge thing, we had close to 150 contributors. So that was even bigger. And of course, we learned our lessons. And so for Springer, we were more organized. So exactly 1 year later, Satwinder sends me another message. Ma'am, are you free now? I said, oh boy, well, this is something we were waiting for. Yes, we are free and we can hop on to this. So thank you, Satwinder. That was very nice. And of course, getting to know you and know your team and how efficiently you function. That was really a remarkable experience. Thank you, Satwinder.
Thank you.
We move on to, is Shamala here? Shamala? Shamala Narayan? Someone please check. Otherwise, we'll move on to Professor Dhar. Professor Dhar, please unmute. Yes, yes, Professor Dhar. So this is Professor Dhar. And Dhar Sab, will you introduce yourself and also talk about the role that you played in bringing up the book?
Well, I Tej Dhar. I teach in the Shulini University in the School of Liberal Arts, and my experience with working with Manju is very old. We both of us collaborated on the two encyclopedias, one by the Rock College and the other here. And when she told me that she is now bringing out a new volume, so she sent me the table of contents, and I had a look at the essays and the contributors coming from different parts of the world and dealing with an issue which was very relevant and very timely also. So I was very happy to write a short endorsement for the volume, which I'm sure would have contributed actually to its acceptance, maybe. But aside from that, I think the most important part about the volume was that there was hardly any area which the contributors had left out. And it's not possible unless the editors make sure that all the different areas related to the subject are taken care of. And that in itself speaks about the kind of meticulous attention that the editors have given to the issues, and also about the kind of interdisciplinary nature of the work. So elements of philosophy, elements of religion, elements of other areas, or even spiritual areas are taken care of. And I think the level of engagement is quite high in the sense that everybody has tried his or her best to put in whatever little they could, with the result, as our generous editor said in the beginning, that hardly anything was left out from this important engagement that actually is becoming so pressing that everybody is now asking questions very clearly and very solidly about why these things were not taken care of earlier on. I mean, it was good enough to be romanticizing nature and things of that sort, but now we are hard pressed to think what exactly we have been doing to the environment, and in what way are we responsible for creating this disturbing imbalance between the human and the non-human. It's not only nature, also about animals and plants and other things that are involved in this. I'm very happy about the volume, and I congratulate the editors for good work, and also to the contributors for sticking on kind of demands that have made. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dhar. That was so kind. Professor Dhar is our man for all seasons, and he's always been very supportive. We also have Mukesh Williams, who has logged in from Japan. Hi, Mukesh. How are you? Would you like to say a few words? Mukesh Williams is here. Would you like to say a few words? You can unmute.
Yes, it's quite a remarkable work both the editors have done, and I really marvel at your enthusiasm to be able to bring so many people together and to uh, keep the fire burning. Um, I write little bit, and I feel it is so difficult to put everybody together. I mean, my own work, it is so difficult to put uh, and together. But definitely, it's a great addition to scholarship. Encyclopedias are very, very important for researchers, for people who are studying a new area, and all kind of scholars are there who were able to write and present, and the editors who brought together all, because it's not so easy. Each person writes differently and creates their own strength and problems. So to be able to collate, bring together, and make a very meaningful encyclopedia within this very short time is very inspiring. So thank you very much, Professor Dhar and Professor Manju Jaidka, and all the editors who worked very hard behind the scenes to make it possible. Thank you very much for inviting me and to observe this great phenomena. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mukesh. Mukesh Williams has been associated with Mello for a long time. In fact, from the earliest days, right from the beginning, I think. And he has been a great support. He's also played a major role in bringing a whole team of young scholars from Japan to India time and again for our conferences. So that is a major contribution. We are very appreciate that, Mukesh, and
Thank you very much.
and we look forward to your continued support. Right. So that was
Thank you.
Mukesh Williams, who has logged in from Japan. Is Dr. Chandra here? NDR Chandra? Dr. Chandra, just check, please, Neeraj. Dr. Chandra, NDR Chandra.
He's here, ma'am.
He's
He's
logged
here.
in. Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Chandra, please switch on your video and unmute yourself. Professor NDR Chandra. He's from the Northeast. He's been a vice chancellor and he's published a lot. Is he coming on? NDR Chandra. I can't see him.
Sir has unmuted himself, but I think there's
I
some
can't.
problem.
No, I can't see him at all. Not in the. NDR Chandra. Dr. Chandra, please switch on your video. Let's move on to, oh, there he is. Hello, sir. Good to see you here.
So it's my pleasure
How are you
to see
today?
all of you. I'm all right. I'm out of station now, and wonderful to see all of you here on the screen. And I must congratulate particularly Professor Manju Jaidka for encouraging all the young scholars and old scholars and middle-aged scholars. And I happened to go through this particular book. There's a Spirit in the Woods, Global Perspective on Literature and Ecology. And really, it's a wonderful book, and it is matching to the global standard, in fact. So I must congratulate all the editors, Professor Jaidka, Manpreet Kang, and Professor Roshan Sharma is not here, I
He's
think.
here. He's here. He's here.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Uh,
And they have done wonderful job, and I must also appreciate the endeavor of the scholars who have contributed for this great volume. Thank you so much. Wish you good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chandra. I must tell you that Professor N.D.R. Chandra is a very erudite scholar who keeps a very low profile, and he's always there to lend a helping hand to young scholars and participate whenever we ask him to join us. Thank you, Dr. Chandra. It was
Thank
very
you. Thank
nice.
you.
Very nice that you could join us. We keep hearing about you and about your publications. Good to see you online.
Thank you.
Is Shamala ma'am here? Shamala, Neera, just check. Manpreet, why don't you say a few words while we wait for Shamala?
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Like all endeavors, this has been a great learning experience. Uh, while you're at it, there is so many different articles, papers, essays you read, so many different perspectives. But of course, it's also tedious work. And, we've had a very dedicated group of young scholars who were also helping with some part of the formatting and editing. So it was teamwork and we went back and forth. But like I said, all that hard work you learn, and in the end it pays off when you have the hard copy in the hand. And we are very grateful to Springer for really sending us 2 copies each. And though I wish they would send those copies to some of the contributors and the sub editors also. They were a little disappointed because these young scholars had put in a lot of work. But it's wonderful to be associated with a publishing house, which is, we all know we don't have to say much about it. And we do believe in rigorous standards. So it was a wonderful, I think, association. And we've been doing some editing work earlier, in our own journal. So it was not something entirely new, but yes, it's been an enriching experience, particularly when you deal with such a professional house as Springer. They were so, I mean, it was back and forth, but very timely, deadlines and things really clarified very well. And so there we are today, I think. And again, like Satvinder said, it's also special because it's a very important topic these days, ecology. We all know we all facing, uh, we can say the brunt of not really paying too much attention to the ecology earlier. So, and there were so many different perspectives. So, all in all, I would say a very satisfying experience having worked with Springer on this anthology, and of course, the joy of holding the book in the hand. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manpreet. Manpreet is a professor at the Indraprasth University in Delhi, and well, she is a very distinguished person who holds a number of positions in her institution because, well, she's so good. So thank you, Manpreet, for your contribution. We move on to Hemraj. Hemraj, would you like to say a few words? Hemraj, incidentally, is part of the Mellow governing body, and he is a young scholar who is shaping up very well. Yes, Hemraj, would you like to say something?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. First, I congratulate Professor Manju Jaidka, ma'am. Manpreet,
One
ma'am.
minute, 1 minute. Let's not congratulate each other. We did it all together. Huh? So let's
Yes,
talk about the book and about your contribution, yeah?
yes, ma'am. That is what I am moving towards. But then, yes, ma'am, I must thank you three people first because it is you who provided us that
Yes.
opportunity to work closely with you. So regarding my
See, the
role of
difference is that I'm Vela. I'm absolutely Vela, and you are still at the grind. Huh? You're still working. So someone has to be the Danda master and coordinate.
Now, I will totally butt in and agree with Hemraj here that Ma'am, Professor Jaidka is the driving force,
Your
and
call,
she
ma'am.
takes us to task, and we're able to do things well a lot because of her. Yes. So we must acknowledge that.
Well,
Right,
thank
right.
you. I have always been a Danda master, and you put up with me all these years, all these decades. So thank you for that. Yes, Imraj, sorry, we butted in.
No, no, ma'am. Actually, it is you who pull these things out. So we must be grateful to you, ma'am, for all this that you have been doing. So regarding my role or contribution, I actually worked closely with Tripti and Pova under the guidance of the chief editors, as I mentioned earlier, in editing actually manuscripts for some language errors, for consistency, and even adherence to the prescribed formatting guidelines. After actually uh, these manuscripts, they were edited by the chief editors as such. So what I would say is that the opportunity provided by Professor Manju Jadka, it really helped strengthen our editorial skills, are actually looking into organizational and collaborative skills as well in academic publishing. So yes, ma'am, there we are really thankful to you. Regarding my contribution as such, what I have done is that, well, I have contributed a chapter in the book on Kim Stanley Robinson's novel, which is really very famous, The Ministry for the Future. And if I look at the writer, he is widely regarded as one of the foremost writers of climate fiction as such. Now, why his novels are important? Because his novels, they combine actually scientific knowledge with literary imagination to address these global environmental crises. So especially if I look at I mean, what is so specific about the novel as such, I'm not going into so much detail here, but then the Ministry for the Future, what I argue here is that it is not simply a novel about disaster. It is primarily a novel about solutions. So, in a way, instead of presenting an apocalyptic future, what Robinson asks here is it is an important question. What can humanity still do to prevent this climate collapse, etc.? So, basically, Ministry for the Future is a ministry which is looking into the problems not of the present generation only, but then the future generations as such. And yet another important point about the contribution was that, well, when it comes to Robinson, so his for example, these proposed solutions, they are not merely fictional interventions. So they emerge actually from the close interaction between literature and science. And he says, and he has said actually this at multiple occasions, that, well, he actively participates in scientific conferences. And what he does by way of that is that he remains engaged with climate scientists, these economists, engineers, and policy experts, etc. So, I won't say much about the paper as such, but then, yeah, this is something. I mean, this paper was something in which I invested a lot, and then, yeah, as it underwent the guiding, sorry, this the editing, for example, this expert eyes of Manju ma'am and all to chief editors. Yeah, the paper, I feel it is I would rate it as one of the best papers that I have contributed. So once again, I thank Manju ma'am and all and other two editors, Professor Manpreet Kang and Professor Roshan Sharma, for providing this opportunity. So thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you all.
Thank you, Hemraj. That was very nice. And I must tell everyone that Hemraj, he is one of those people, who has been at the receiving end from
No,
time
no.
to time. Like I would send him a mail, you have to answer tonight, otherwise we are going to drop your paper. And I've said that to so many, and they're all very nice. They listen. Huh? So thank you, Hemraj, for putting up with all this.
Thank you, ma'am,
So,
rather making this disciplined.
well, let's move on. We have Nivedita Mishra here. Hi, Nivedita. Nivedita
Hi.
and Nivedita and we at Mellow go back a few years. She has been a contributor to our earlier volumes also, and she joins our Mellow musings from time to time. She is from Trinidad Tobago. Why don't you introduce yourself, Nivedita, and talk about your contribution to the volume.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. I'm Nivedita and I live in Trinidad. I teach part-time at the University of the West Indies, and that's about it. I would like to begin by expressing my heartiest gratitude to Professor Jaidka, Professor Manpreet Kang, and Professor Roshan Sharma. Let me say it, we sometimes don't say it enough, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this volume and to present my work today. I'm truly delighted with the finished book and wish with how smoothly the entire process unfolded. Although there were moments when there were concerns about it being delayed or something like that, but I think the timeline was in fact quite reasonable. Most academic publishing houses take anywhere from 6 months to 18 months after accepting the book. Looking at the beautiful volume before us today, I feel the wait was well worth it. I am especially pleased that each contributor has received a complimentary copy of the book. I think it's important. For those among us who are seeing their work in print for the first time, I extend my warmest congratulations and best wishes. While this is not my first publication, I must admit that I feel particularly sentimental about this one. My contribution is on V.S. Naipaul's The Enigma of Arrival, and the reading grew out of a deeply personal experience. I grew up in Delhi, India. Ironically, I never thought of myself as someone who had much of a relationship with nature. People often describe Delhi as a concrete jungle, but growing up, I never quite understood what they meant. There were always plenty of trees around us, I thought so, even if they were not particularly old or towering. We spent evenings around India Gate, walking along the tree-lined avenues, and that seemed perfectly natural to me. Nothing, however, prepared me for the tropical abundance of Trinidad. Here, nature is not simply present, it is exuberant. We cut the grass not only in our gardens. If it is left unattended, nature would quite literally take over the roadsides, unless they are regularly manicured. One memory in particular stayed with me. During the flowering season it's the autumn that we have. It's not, Trinidad is a tropical country along the equator, so we really don't have those many seasons. We have just the two seasons, the wet and the dry. So during the dry season in March, there's a particular pui tree that is very native to Trinidad. And the pui tree is particular in the sense that it sheds its leaves first, and then it's just full of flowers, and then it sheds all its flowers, and then it's just the bare tree. During this season, my daughter remarked that the pui trees had been misbehaving. And when I asked her what she meant, she explained that the trees were supposed to shed their flowers during the 10-day period when children at the SEA examination, that's an examination that they do in class 5. So it marks their transit from the primary school to the secondary school. So they would then run through the carpet of the fallen poetry flowers after the examination, and that for her generation, a cherished rite of passage. That moment made me realize something more profound. Nature acquires meaning through human experience. Of course, the poetry knows nothing about the SEA exam, right? Yet in our imagination and our memories, its flowering had become inseparable from one of the life's important life milestones. It was in that frame of mind, perhaps, that I read Naipaul's The Enigma of Arrival. I came away with two insights. First, Naipaul is seeking to connect with England through its landscape and the changing seasons. Second, he gradually recognizes that colonialism had disrupted his ability to form a deep relationship with nature, both in Trinidad, where he grew up, and in England, where he made his home. My essay explores the research This search, Naipaul's attempt to understand how landscape, memory, and the rhythms of the season shape one's sense of belonging and how colonial history complicates this relationship. Finally, once again, I would like to thank Professor Jaidka, Professor Kang, and Professor Roshan Lal Sharma for this wonderful opportunity. It has been both an honor and a pleasure to be part of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Nivedita. Nivedita is a Naipaul expert, and we've had some discussion on the very controversial writer from time to time. Regarding the delays, there was no delay from our side or from Springer, from the side of Springer, but there were some contributors, young contributors, who could not get back with the proofs because they had changed their affiliation. And so we kept on sending emails, kept on trying to reach out to them, and I had to launch almost an international search, asking my friends in different countries, please find out from New York University if this guy is still there. So we had to do all that. Finally, we got it, and that's why the delay took place. And regarding the copies, yes, one or two did not get their copies, but lovely friend Satvinder is here. So now that you've seen her, she has that kindness on her face, and she is a very kind person. Just drop her a note, and I'm sure she'll send you a copy. And if they run out of copies, then you can always borrow mine. Okay.
Manju,
Well,
I
thank
have
you.
to leave. It's very late for me. I
Yeah.
woke up very early. So if you don't mind,
Oh,
thank
okay.
you. Thank you for inviting me. And I
Thank you.
wish the book great success.
Thank you, Mukesh. Sayonara.
Thank you,
Good
Sayonara.
that you could
Thank you
join
so very
us.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So we move on, and Giada is here. Giada, she is an Italian from Canada. Giada, would you like to say a few words?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really want to echo the sentiment of everybody really being proud of being part of this effort. I have published quite a bit of articles throughout my journey. I'm about to finish a postdoctoral appointment actually in the Faculty of Information and Media Studies at Western University, London, Ontario. But I hadn't quite tested the water when it comes to publishing a book chapter. So it's been really interesting effort being part of the collection There's a Spirit in the Woods, Global Perspective on Literature and Ecology. And if I could summarize my research interest, even beyond academic ones, is how we communicate environmental conflicts, environmental issues. And so throughout the years of being an active academic, I've been trying different media formats, for example, artworks, campaigns, and now it came to time to explore literature. So in my chapter, I examine Pope Francis' encyclical Laudato Si through the combined perspective of climate justice and liberation ecology. Truly interested in starting from a simple premise: the ecological crisis is never only ecological, and environmental degradation is inseparable from stories of fossil fuel development, resource extraction, and this was particularly what drove me to write about encyclical from the Vatican. Most of my work has been to support anti-mining activism in El Salvador and in Central America, all countries, region, should I say, that is very Catholic. So it's quite interesting for me as a scholar to observe the power of the church, the power of the stories of the publication of the church in this rural context where farmer, activists, land defenders use this text in order to promote their demands for a clean environment, to stop the pillaging of resources and the imposition of mining projects. So, this is not to say that it's always the case, not all the time. The church has a progressive stance, but in many cases, the Catholic Church in Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, the region where I work the most, has been providing a role of support and accompaniment to the demands of the population for a safe environment, and again, at least the right to be consulted if a mining project were to be imposed in their own territory. So it makes us think really about rights of sovereignty, territoriality, for example. And of course, in this chapter, I wanted to engage with different but crucial concepts in the field, especially in environmental humanities, starting with Anthropocene, which is a very useful term because it recognizes that human activity has transformed the Earth on a planetary scale. At the same time, describing humanity as a single geological force can obscure important inequalities, which I've been talking about so far. It can make appear that all human beings contributed equally to the climate crisis and are equally responsible for resolving it. But again, we do know that hundreds of millions have contributed very little to the fossil fuel economy. And so, nevertheless, marginalized, indigenous, racialized, and low income communities, like the one I work with specifically in Central America, are frequently the most exposed to climate disruption, pollution, displacement, ecosystem degradation. So, doing a close text analysis of this encyclical called Laudato Si, inspired by Saint Francis of Assisi, where Pope Francis took his name from, a saint that was well known for its ecological um, protection, even almost 1,000 years ago. That's when he was alive. Again, it's meant to be encyclical, a celebration of life, considering animals and nature as creatures of God, deserving the most the most elevated type of respect. And again, really think about different way of unequal responsibility. So this is really a central concept in Laudato Si, especially because, as we know, Pope Francis was from Argentina, one of the very few popes who actually was from the global south, let's say. So again, bringing this contribution and connecting themes of spirituality, criticism toward terms like Anthropocene, and especially highlighting in the chapter that I wrote the concept of integral ecology. Pope Francis refused to separate environmental problems from social ones, climate change, pollution, biodiversity loss, poverty, health, culture, and political economy are all presented as interconnected dimensions of the same crisis. Therefore, there's a call in this text to hear both the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor, and actually get them together to describe what Pope Francis mentioned as an ecological conversion. This involves changes in individual habits and values, but it cannot stop there. It must also involve transformation in institutions, economic priorities, political structures, and collective relationship with the natural world. And so, to get to the end of what I want to mention as a brief summary of the chapter that I wrote, and again, really grateful to be part of this effort, I've been really more and more interested in the perspective of liberation ecology, which maybe for some people who are not familiar, it brings together political ecology side and the commitments of liberation theology. It extends the Catholic tradition of the Church of the Poor toward what is the Church of the Poor and the earth. Again, this connection, this central dimension that is really quite important to pay closer attention to the role of religious actors, but also the text that they write in extractive conflicts, for example, in Central America, as this been my case study. So ultimately, liberation ecology asks us not only to care for our common home, but also to confront the structure that make the home secure for some and increasingly unlivable for others. One of the last time I was in El Salvador, for example, I was quite pleased to be in a church, just visiting the church, and actually see a list of signature where people could sign up and actually try to prohibit, or let's say try to stop the amendment of the mining law, which in El Salvador right now completely prohibited metallic mining. Some political change have happened across the years, but again, the church and this text as a site for actual ecological education and activism. So once again, climate justice really explains unequal responsibility and vulnerability. And then liberation ecology, as I try to argue in the chapter, brings this perspective together by connecting both ethical reflection with collect and institutional action. And again, having the support of the church, as we know, especially in Christian countries, can be quite the game changer when it comes to fighting a mining project or a dam that are imposed in territories in the global south, especially by Canadian or American capital. So once again, really pleased to be part of this effort. Really interesting to read also the other contributor chapters. I was very touched when I received a copy of my own book. I'm in the process of moving. That's why I already packed it, because the book, of course, is coming to me as I plan my next academic chapter. So thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Jada. It was a fascinating topic, honestly. Totally new field. And I hope you'll remain connected with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much once again, Professor.
We move on to Sunena. Sunena, are you ready to say a few words? Sunena Jain, Dr. Sunena Jain. Unmute, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. And first of all, I would start with, though Manju ma'am has said it, not to mention her, but I have to thank her. So I express my deep gratitude to all the editors of the book, Manju ma'am, Manpreet ma'am, and Roshan sir, for giving me an opportunity to contribute this very timely volume. And I already have a very special interest, and my area of scholarly interest is ecofeminism. Through this volume, I again had a chance to contribute to something that I feel very closely about, and that is environmental justice, climate change. So this volume actually offers a very timely exploration of eco-criticism, ecofeminism in an era which is so beset by rapid climate change, environmental injustices, degradation. So it's very important, I think, to look at how literary works, cultural texts shape, inform, and address the pressing ecological concerns of today. So this book, as everybody has mentioned already, it covers a range of ecological themes, the consequences of ecological imbalance, then climate justice, uh, very importantly, how it foregrounds the marginalized voices, the voices on the periphery. And it does not just cover environmental degradation, but also, envisions a possible future or a way forward, how we can shape future through the lens of literature and culture. Again, I received my copy of the book, and it's with me. So thank you so much, Springer, for sending me a copy of the book, the cover is so beautiful. And I must mention that the green and the yellow of the book, it so well goes with the thematic contents of the book. It's a beautiful cover, so thank you. Coming to my contribution to the book, so I have contributed a chapter titled Reading Ecofeminist Water Ethic in Sarah Joseph's Gift in Green. An Indian writer I have picked up for this paper. And, at its heart, my paper asks a simple but important question. Is it possible to stop looking at water merely as a natural resource and begin to see it as something that shapes culture, memory, wisdom, identity, and life itself? So, in today's world, we all hear about water scarcity, polluted floods, even now in Uttarakhand and so many places in India. There are floods and droughts and flash floods. There is privatization of water. But we also see that most these discussions around water, they revolve around policy making, economics, technology. My paper here approaches the issue from a different perspective, that is through an interaction between literature and ecofeminism. The primary text that I choose for this paper, as I mentioned, is Sarah Joseph's novel Gift in Green, which is set in the fictional. So I'll tell a little bit about the paper and the theoretical framework that I have chosen. So it is set in the fictional village of Athi in Kerala, and this novel portrays the environmental realities faced by many communities today. It portrays a village where water is not just a part of the landscape; it is not there in the background. It's the foundation of people's lives, traditions, spirituality, wisdom, collective memory. But then the novel moves on to show how capitalistic greed, how modernization, development, what Vandana Shiva calls maldevelopment, the creation of concrete jungle, it threatens to destroy the pristine beauty of this village. Now, to analyze this novel, I draw on three major theoretical frameworks, and that is, as I just mentioned, Vanna Shiva. So, her framework of ecofeminism, which argues that the exploitation of nature and the oppression of women are deeply interconnected. And she deeply criticizes maldevelopment, and that is what happens in the novel. Then the second framework comes from Estrida Nimanes, whose concept of hydrofeminism encourages us to think of ourselves as bodies of water. She reminds us that water flows through our bodies, just as it flows through rivers and lakes and oceans, ecosystems. So that takes us to an understanding that human beings are not separate from nature. We are materially connected to it. And the third perspective that I have used is Stacey Alimo's concept of transcorporeality, which emphasizes that human bodies and environment are constantly interacting. So it's if it is pollution, if it is toxins, if it is contaminated water, it does not remain outside us. It enters our bodies. Then environmental damage thus becomes both an ecological issue and a deeply personal one. So using these three different theoretical perspectives, I argue in this paper that this novel presents water as an ethical and relational water force rather than looking at it as a merely physical resource. And so this reflects what contemporary scholars describe as watery relationality too. And another important fact which this novel deals with is the importance of stories, right? So storytelling is very important in India, and storytelling in Athi, in this village, also it begins with water. So storytellers, this is a very beautiful concept. The storytellers in this village, they immerse themselves physically, in water before telling stories, symbolizing that water is the source of memory, it is the source of wisdom, again, and cultural and spiritual continuity. And another major argument of my paper concerns, because it is ecofeminism, so it also concerns women's ecological activism. So there are women in the novel who stand at the forefront of resistance against environmental destruction, whether it is land grabbing, challenging corporate greed, and fighting to protect Athi's water bodies. And I also use deluge myth as a powerful metaphor. I'll not delve deep into it. So ultimately, my paper argues that this novel moves beyond an Anthropocene worldview where humans dominate nature towards what we may call an Ecocene perspective. We should move towards an Ecocene perspective, which is based on coexistence, reciprocity, harmony, and ecological justice. So so by bringing together, these different ideas, my paper tries to offer a powerful ecofeminist vision of water ethics, one that challenges patriarchal and capitalist models of development. And it also invites us to imagine a more just, sustainable, and compassionate relationship with the natural world. So
Thank you,
that
Sunena.
was what my paper is.
Yeah, that is fascinating, Sunena. And you've been talking so much about water. I'm reading a fascinating book these days. It's by Elif Shafak, and it's called There's a River in the Sky, something like that. And
Okay.
you will find it very interesting because
Okay.
it all revolves around water, water bodies, and so on. But
Oh,
thanks, Sunena. Sunena, incidentally, teaches in MCMDAV College in Chandigarh, and that is where we are going to have our next conference. She's one of the young scholars whom we have watched grow over the years. We move on to another young scholar, Neeraj. Neeraj, come on. So here is Neeraj, and he is one of those I've been pushing around a bit too much, but he takes it in his stride. So Neeraj, would you like to say something?
Sure, ma'am. Sure. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It is a privilege to be a part of this wonderful book launch and to be one of the contributors for this collection. So, the title of my chapter is From Glamour to Green, Exploring Cinematic Responses to Climate Change in Bollywood. Traditionally, Bollywood has been known for its glamour, romance, music, and picturesque landscapes. Nature has often been treated as a beautiful backdrop rather than as a living entity with its own voice and concerns. My chapter begins asking a simple yet important question. Can cinema do more than entertain? Can it become a medium for environmental awareness and social change? The central argument of my chapter is that in recent years, a new generation of filmmakers has begun to move beyond conventional storytelling. Instead of presenting nature merely as scenery, they portray it as a victim of human greed, environmental exploitation, and climate change. In doing so, they encourage audiences to rethink humanity's relationship with the natural world. To explore this idea, I analyzed two significant Hindi films, Neelam Madhav Panda's Kadvi Hawa and Abhishek Kapoor's Kedarnath. Kadvi Hawa presents the devastating consequences of prolonged drought in rural India. It is not simply a story about farmers struggling with poverty. It is a story about how climate change destroys livelihoods, pushes people into debt, and ultimately erodes hope. The film demonstrates that environmental degradation is not an abstract scientific issue. It has real human faces, real families, and real suffering behind it. On the other hand, Kedarnath examines the tragic floods of 2013 in Uttarakhand. While many viewed the disaster as purely natural, the film invites us to consider the role of reckless urbanization, unchecked development, and human interference with fragile ecosystems. It reminds us that when we ignore ecological balance, nature eventually responds with consequences that can be catastrophic. One of the most important concepts discussed in my paper is eco-cinema. Eco-cinema refers to films that place environmental concerns at the center of their narratives. Such films do not merely depict nature, they encourage viewers to recognize the interconnectedness between humans and the environment and inspire ecological responsibility. My chapter argues that cinema possesses enormous cultural influence in India. Millions of people watch films every year, and therefore, cinema has the potential to communicate environmental issues in ways that statistics and scientific reports often cannot. A compelling story, powerful visuals, and emotionally engaging characters can make audiences feel the urgency of climate change far more deeply than facts alone. Ultimately, the chapter that I have contributed concludes that these films are not merely stories about droughts or floods. They are cautionary narratives about the Anthropocene, an age in which human actions have become one of the greatest forces shaping the planet. They remind us that climate change is not only an environmental crisis, but also a moral, social, and cultural challenge. I hope that this chapter contributes to the growing field of eco critical studies by encouraging scholars to examine cinema not just as an entertainment, but as a powerful instrument for environmental education, public awareness, and social transformation. That's all. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Neeraj. Thank you very much. And Neeraj is another young scholar whom I almost literally pulled out of Solon. And we are watching him grow. Good. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. We've been talking about the young editors who have helped us proofread and edit the volume. We have one of them here. Purva, where are you? Hemraj has already spoken to you earlier, and here is Purva. Yes, Purva, you want to say something?
Yeah. Good evening, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. Good evening, ma'am. Though I have not personally contributed a chapter, but I have the good fortune of, rereading the work time and again under the guidance of Professor Manju Jaidka, Professor Manpreet Kang, and Professor Roshan. And this address cannot start, without addressing our heartfelt gratitude towards our professors. We are very grateful for this opportunity, ma'am. And yes, editing was a hard task for us, but it has offered a vast tapestry of learning, unlearning that was involved in the process. Because environment and ecological feminism As such, it was not only, the surrounding trees, plants, but very profound metaphors that have always delved deep. The papers, we have the good fortune where we have edited 8, 9 papers, and in every paper there was such a like, for example, one paper talk about indigenous Lapcha community of Sikkim, and in every paper there was a dialogue, there was a renegotiation, and it was more than just environmental anthropology. It was more than that. I have just written few words, that have always remained with me when these papers were concerned, and I'll just take very less time in telling that. So yes. Okay, okay. So there was Hemraj sir paper, and of course he have talked and delved in detail about his work. So I'll not touch again. The Baspita ma'am paper, explored about Rabindranath Tagore's juvenile literature as a counter discourse on harmony of completeness, Western anthropocentrism, and imperialist consumerist ideals. That how in the age of degradation, how in the age of capitalism, it's very important to have the indigenous relation with nature. Nature is very important active agent which is essential for psycho spiritual freedom, where Sunaina ma'am very importantly and widely talked about liberative ecology. Das ma'am also talked about educational systems that stifle imagination through confinement. Then there was a beautiful paper and a very profound paper, Margot sir paper, which actually talks about Olga Tokarczuk's novel through the lens of environmental revenge. So that was actually the protagonist in all these works were facing a sense of duty of protection for silenced ecosystem, telling that how the dialogue and the negotiation is going on at every level, at microcosmic level, at a grand level, at a personal level, at a spiritual level. And the paper also critiques cannibal capitalism, which is very important for consuming nature without responsibility. Also, Margot's paper investigates about legitimacy of a human agent acting as a tool for nature. It also deals with eco horror elements that reflect very deeply interconnected existence within ourselves. Then Nivedita ma'am talked about her paper. Archana ma'am, again shed light about eco spiritual connection of Lepcha community. This paper has touched me so radically, so revolutionary. It was the first paper that I edited, and it actually explored how oral traditions, how myth foster environmental consciousness, how Lepcha identity as ravine dwellers is inseparable from the natural world. And folklore serves as a moral code to protect the sacred web of life. The paper also deals with how spirituality offers an alternative discourse to Western model of anthropocentrism. So these are few papers that I've edited. I will not go very detailed into it because the book is there for us to read. And Antonis sir paper, then Sharmila ma'am's paper. But I would, just want to render my services always in a collaborative effort, and whenever there is a time and a space, would always learn, relearn, and unlearn through these lived experiences of editing. So thank you so much, ma'am. Manju ma'am, thank you so much, Manpreet ma'am, and Roshan sir, for trusting us with this sense of responsibility to edit this voluminous and this really profound work. Thank you.
Thank you, Purva. Purva is Manpreet's student, and she's been groomed very nicely by Manpreet, who is really a whiz at editing. So often I have to ask her whenever I'm in doubt, okay, Manpreet, do you put a colon or a semicolon here? Do you put the inverted commas before or after the full stop? Well, she always has it on her fingertips. So Manpreet is the one we always turn to. But thanks, Purva, and I'm sure you will get your book. If you don't get your book, just tell me, and I'll be happy to give you one of mine, okay?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Right. Okay, so is there anybody else who would like to speak before I ask Roshan to give the vote of thanks? Anybody else who would like to speak? Just switch on your video and say a few words if you wish to. Now is the time. Otherwise, I'm going to ask Roshan. Roshan, come onto the screen, please. Yeah, there he is. All right. So I must tell you, it's my turn now to say thank you to Manpreet, and thank you to Roshan Lal, and thank you to Satwinder and all the contributors here, and the editors also. So it was really fun working together, and particularly towards the end with Manpreet and Roshan. We took 2 days off, and I'm generally free, but these two had to take 2 days off from their work, and we sat down from morning to evening, taking a break only for meals in between, and we sat at it and went through the entire thing towards the end. So that was fun, huh? It was really something we enjoyed doing, and we're looking forward to doing such stuff again. Okay, now Roshan, see, he's been very quiet for very long. Roshan, can you say a brief thank you, please? Brief, huh? So
Okay.
we love to hear you, and I know you have so much to say, but
No, don't have much to say, ma'am, but my brief, in fact, expands all by itself. However hard I try, but so thank you very much. I'll start in an inverse fashion. First of all, our assistant editors and Himraj Purva and Tripti, and Himraj spoke, and Purva also so full of Purva is so full of it, despite the fact that she didn't contribute to it. Purva, we really appreciate this kind of spirit of yours, and we are pretty sure in times to come you are going to be part of the anthologies, the books, that are going to come, that we are all going to come across. And thank you, Himraj, for being there always. Despite, the workload that you always have that, yes, always ready to, take on any kind of responsibility that comes your way. And we have Neeraj. Neeraj, thank you very much. I know you're there, behind the screen, and you work so much. And I also know how much Professor Jaidka relies on you when it comes to, the technical aspect of it and everything. And thanks particularly for sharing your thoughts about your paper. Very succinct, very lucid, of course. And Sunaina, thank you very much. It's. I still remember, of course, when you were accorded that opportunity to write that chapter, and you've done it so well, so rigorously. Thank you, and thanks for sharing your thoughts with us. And then we have Giada, and Giada, in fact, she seemed as if she was backing off towards the end of observations, whatever she shared with us. She said she possibly might be on to her next assignment somewhere, engagement somewhere. But what we learned from Giada and is, the degrees of seriousness vis-a-vis her engagement. I mean, how passionate she is about it, and and how committed, and of course all of us benefit from such experiences, such kind of observations. And then we have Nivedita Mishra. Thank you, Nivedita, for being there and bringing Naipaul absolutely alive to us. The kind of relationship that you have with Naipaul's fiction, with Naipaul's life per se is of course worth emulating, in the sense that if at all one has to enter into an authorial space, I mean that precisely is the passion and love that we enter with, and then it's only thereafter that we are able to do justice to any author. I've talked about Hemraj. Thank you very much. Your paper is really insightful. I also enjoyed reading that. Manpreet, thank you very much, and thank you for being there always. And I'm sorry I keep fighting with you, and when ma'am said that when she is confused, between semicolon and colon, she asks me and I actually answer. But she named Manpreet. I don't mind it, Manpreet. Thank you very much. Or that kind of, that thing goes on and I don't feel bad about it. And I know Manpreet is not there. She won't appear on the screen because she knows, ma'am was telling a lie. So thank you, Manpreet. Thank you very much. And thank you for taking time out. We know the kind of responsibilities that you share. And ma'am was absolutely right when she said that towards the end of it, sitting day in, day out, morning, evening, night, I mean, all the while, sitting on scripts and looking at them time and again and exchanging, papers in the process of editing. Of course, a great, not just a learning experience, but it's terribly exhausting as well, of course. But when the end product is like this, one feels like doing it again and again, of course. One has that sense of, one feels inspired. Thank you, Professor N.D.R. Chandra. Thank you for just providing it. Your views actually appear on the very first page, and thank you very much for reading the book, that carefully, that insightfully, and sharing your thoughts, with us, also in the form of, this observation and opinion of yours out here. And Professor Mukesh Williams, thank you very much. You kept talking about some encyclopedia, but we were talking about the book called There's a Spirit in the Woods. But anyhow, that encyclopedia actually was brought out earlier. Thank you very much for being there and taking time out. You're always there for us. And whenever you speak, Mukesh, let me tell you, I mean, what we relish the most and what we feel most inspired about is, your original thought. I mean, this is something which is very rare these days. I mean, it's not like, scholarship, theory, or anything else would in any way, touch you. I mean, you've got that uncanny kind of ability to steer clear of that, these theoretical, kind of clutches. That is something really special about you. Let me place it on record here. Thank you very much. And then we have got Professor Dhar, of course, undoubtedly a man of all seasons. Professor Dhar, we look up to you always. We have been looking up to you when we were students, when I was a postgraduate student in Shimla. You were there, What I love about your demeanor is, that love and affection that you shower on us. And whenever, whenever there's that opportunity to tell us something substantial, something that benefits us concretely, you never miss out on that. And your presence always really motivates, it inspires, it tells us as to how to doggedly, pursue something that you have consciously committed yourself to. Thank you, Professor Dhar. And then we have Professor Shamala M. Narayan. She couldn't be there, but we thank her. She's always there for us. And then Satwinder, thank you. You really look so very young, but when you speak, you are like the typical Western professional, who wouldn't mince words and who means business always. And yeah, we keep at times, Satwinder, missing waiting for your responses for weeks and for months at times, and we know you're caught up somewhere, but eventually, whenever you come up with something, which is very, very encouraging, very heartening. So we thank you for that. Be there. And there's a lot to, come from our side, of course, in times to come, and you know about that. And last but never least, I'd say Professor Manju Jaidka. Thank you very much for being there. Thank you very much, for being partial towards Manpreet, Kang, and thank you very much for always, I would say for me, when it comes, it's like, scolding as well, by and large, because I miss out deadlines. Like, I don't know, it's something but well, I possibly could be a compulsive procrastinator. Something has seeped in so badly into me. But at the end of the day, if at all it has to click, it's all on account of her very, very, at times even harsh scolding. But I don't mind that. We keep waiting for that. But we end up doing something different. We end up doing something, which becomes eventually memorable. And we have grown under your tutelage, under your guidance, and we'll still grow, and we'll grow and grow and grow. I promise I won't expand. So Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you very much. I loved your presentations, all of you, and all our friends, who are there. I can see quite a few of them. They are there already. And thanks for attending this session. And this actually is a session that must propel us further, that must encourage us, because mellow also means that we have already, broken that ceiling, and we have already entered a space where we have started mattering globally. And in times to come, of course, we are going to get better and better and better. Let me promise you that. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roshan. Thank you, Roshan. And we were talking about mentoring and grooming youngsters, and here is one live example before you, Roshan. He would have still been stuck in Solon if I literally had not pulled him out, and now he's a role model for people like Neeraj. And of course, sometimes he becomes so big that they turn around and tell you you're lying. But there's a history behind it. He and Manpreet are like squabbling siblings all the time, and sometimes have to keep them apart. And yes, deadlines. Manpreet is now very good at it, but I had to get after her for a long time. And Roshan he still is at the receiving end, because I have to send him umpteen reminders, and then I tell him, okay, I'm going to leave your role out. We're going to leave your name out. No, ma'am, I'll do it. And he does it. So thank you, Roshan. Thank you, Manpreet. And it's great working with you, even though you keep squabbling all the time. And one of you accuses me of telling lies. Horrible creature. Let me see you
I
next
know,
time.
Roshan. Stop being jealous, Roshan. Yeah. That's
Mm.
such a soft corner for you.
Yeah, and we have somebody from Hong Kong also who has not switched on his video today, and a few other contributors who are there. And yes, here is Perkus. Perkus, thank you. He's from Hong Kong. And the others who would like to switch on their videos may do so now before we wind up. There is Saurav here. I remember Saurav also, he helped a lot. He has a paper. You have a paper, right?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
yes, you
I
have a
co-authored
paper,
it
and
with Roshan sir.
Bhakti, yeah, and Bhakti is there. So all these people are part of our support group also. We have a mellow support group, and from time to time I have to pull them up also. Otherwise, they take things rather easy. But well, someone has to do it. And we have a lot of things to do together. We are going to meet again. This session has been recorded. It will be put on our YouTube channel, and you're most welcome to look at it and share it on your social media. You must. It will be a bit of self promotion, but then if you don't promote yourself, who else will? So you might as well do it. All right. In 3 weeks from now, we will be meeting a young lady who's a very well-known writer called Shuma Raha. She had joined for a short while, but then she left me a message and she had to go. So we'll be meeting Shuma Raha in the next Mellow Musings session. And we also have another speaker lined up in one of the Meet Your Professors series. Remember, we've had some of these series. We met Pramod Nair some weeks ago. So we'll be meeting another distinguished professor. So like this, our activities will go on. Mellow Musings will go on. We will continue publishing also, putting essays together. But for now, well, this is a sort of an e-celebration. Enjoy the book, pass it around, put it on your social media, and whoever else has it, yeah, just show it. Yes, yes. Okay. With that, thank you, Satwinder, and thank you to Arunima. I think she was not able to join. And to everyone who has joined today, and we meet again, and we look forward to many more such collaborative activities. The contributors from abroad, we would love it if you stay with us. At the moment, we are winding up a book on queer studies. It is in the final stages, and we've also started working on the centenary anthology on Marquez. So that work is also going on. So much to look forward to. All right, until next time, bye everyone, and thank you for joining the
Bye.
session
Thank
today.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ma'am.